guys, so here I am in my tiny house, and you can't really see it, but I am surrounded by crafting things. And I have to tell you first off, somebody who inspires me is Shadell over at Delectable Mountains. I love her. I've been following her for years, and she's a minimalist. And she might have changed it to Delectably Vegan though. And she inspires me. She had some pictures on Instagram the other day just showing what her living room looked like. And she had a bookcase and she had a chair and this glorious open expanse all around that space. And it made me sit and think and be like, she's right. There are certain things we read, there's certain things we don't read. There's certain crafts that I do and there's certain crafts that I don't do. So I went up into my bedroom, which is where I store a lot of my crafting supplies because there is a narrow space. But this space right here, you don't really put your head in it. It's hard to store things in it because you have to walk across the bed or crawl across the bed in order to get to it. And during the day, I do not let any of us upstairs into the bedroom. The reason is that we live in the country. There's stickers, there's bugs, and all sorts of things you have on your clothes during the day. At night, we always shower before bed. And because of that, we're sparkly clean. It means I don't have to wash a lot of sheets and blankets. I don't have to change them constantly because we are really, really clean when we come out of that shower. But it means that I'm not getting all my crafting supplies out when I want to. I'm not really focusing on that space, and it means I'm not crafting. And that's what I really want to get down to with the whole minimalist thing, even in a tiny house, is that what you're not using, it's still on your mind because you can see it. It feels cluttered because you can see it. And it means that you're not letting things that you'll actually use into your life because you're holding on to things that you don't care enough about to use them constantly, if that makes sense. So I'm going to show you what I pulled out of my bedroom and what I'm going to do about them. And I'll try and go up and show you where I pulled them out of a little later. This is a stand for drop spindles. I like drop spindles, but I love Turkish drop spindles. And these are the old spindles that they had for... what was it called? For Spinolution. They used to make drop spindles. And I've been using them for decoration, but I really don't need to. I think even though something is decorative, it needs to have a double use. In a tiny house at least. And the reason I love tiny houses is because it makes you mindful of these things. I have very, very few sewing books. This is one that I spent a lot of money on. I don't even remember when I bought this, but it's gone with me from house to house to house to house. And the thing is, I never use it. It has instructions in it, but not necessarily patterns. And I find that I don't particularly care for this kind of instruction. If I'm going to do something, I like to do it with a pattern. If I get confused, I'll look it up online. So even though this is a very expensive book, how much did this cost me? I don't even remember. It was very expensive though. I'm going to send it on. I'm going to send it on to the secondhand store, and hopefully somebody there will enjoy it. But I need to send it on. I've had it with me for too many years without opening it. I think I've opened it 3 times and I've never actually used anything in it. This is my pattern book, the things that universally I hold on to. And this is how I store all my patterns, is in these little envelopes. I have envelopes for the kids to use to make doll clothes, and kind of look at my patterns that I could fit in and say, okay, is that one that I should put in now? And I sort through it about every 6 months. I know a lot of people think about tiny houses and off-grid living as kind of pioneering it, doing lots of handmade crafts, cooking everything from scratch and that kind of thing. And that can be the case. But when you let clutter get in the way, you pretty much are just living with a lot of clutter in a really tiny house. You might as well live in a big house. So my mission today is to get things cleared out that I'm not ever going to use, to get things cleared out that I have duplicates of, and to really hone down and focus on the things that I really want to make, the things I really care about in my crafting spot, in my crafting life, and get them made. Because if you're surrounded by boring projects, just because you're in a little house doesn't mean you'll get to them. It really has to be something you're excited about, and you really have to minimize the amount of projects you have because you don't have room to store it. I will go up and show you where I usually keep all of these things and where they've been and why it was difficult to get any of my projects finished. So what you'll notice is that I'm up here in my bedroom, which means that in order to be able to get to these spaces, I had to climb over them. And if I've been outside working, I could have stickers, I could have bugs on me. And the way that we keep this workable is that we are always very, very clean when we come upstairs. We do not come upstairs unless we've showered, and that way I don't have to change sheets every week. Everybody's just really spotless. And it works well for us. But if you want to use something, you need to make it accessible. So I've noticed I haven't done the sewing that I want to be doing. I haven't done the spinning I want to be doing because I don't have my tools and my materials easily accessible. Okay, so this is where I store my fabric. And that's the space I have. You see, I've actually emptied out one spot. That's for making hot pad holders. This is fabric storage, fabric storage, fabric storage. And then I was storing a little bit of tools here in these little cubbies, but now I need to just get them painted and cleared out. Okay, so here's another admission. All these baskets up here, they all have crafting stuff in them. That's all there is on this whole side, and these are not tiny baskets. And I'll just show you, just try to be really real. I just emptied another basket out onto the floor that used to be, see all that? That's all crafting stuff. It's stuff that I had here thinking, oh, I'll just pull it out every once in a while and maybe I can get them emptied and that way I won't have to get rid of them. But in reality, I have way too much. The reason I have them is because years ago, before we left on our little trip, I was making most of my money on Etsy, and I would have all these cute little ribbons. Here, I'll show you some. I had all these cute little ribbons, the rickrack and everything that I would use to tie up my packages. I grew Tulsi Kapoor in my greenhouse so that I could make every package smell beautiful. And this is what I used so that I wasn't going out and buying ribbon. I would go to secondhand stores and buy those big, like garbage sack size bags full of old ribbon that little grannies have been storing in their basements. However, I have lace, ribbon, double fold bias tape, and what else do I have? I have other things up there. Like the only one that's legitimately something I get into all the time is my carding combs, which are up there. And I have quite a few carding combs in one basket, so it makes sense. But I have all these others that I don't use. When I do a big project, like for instance when I did the curtains, we'll see if I can show you the curtains. When I did the curtains, I used some blanket double fold bias tape that was made out of satin that was a blanket binding. This. So I had some really flimsy fabric, and I knew that even if I doubled it up on itself, it was going to look bunchy and not so cute, and so I used the double fold bias tape that I'd already purchased that I had stored. So I use it, and to a lot of you, if you have a big crafting room, you'll understand that it's not that much, but for my space, I am kind of still hoarding a little bit, especially with the lace. I have a very hard time getting rid of pretty lace. I had an auntie that made these gorgeous confections. The dresses were actually made out of these. She would have an underlining, and then she would make the overdress out of these little strips of lace. She would buy these little strips of lace at discounts, and then she'd sew them together, and they were gorgeous. And because of that, because of my Aunt Laura, I have such a hard time getting rid of lace because some of it was hers. So this is my lace collection. These are my zippers, my buckles, and my Velcro. These are my little baggies that I like to put my newly finished products into when I send them to someone. They have a little bit of lace on them, and I need to singe the ends a little bit on these. They were actually something else. They were the covers for the little gardening journals that I did, and they didn't turn out as well as I wanted them to, so instead I sewed the edges, and instead of being binder covers, they became little bags. And this is a dress that my mom made for me when I was 11. It looked like an Anne of Green Gables dress, and I loved it. And so that's why you still see this fabric here, is because This was what was left over from a dress my mom made, and I want to hold on to it. And then, again, this is really the only box I get into on a regular basis, and it's my carding combs. So I have my actual worsted combs. I have my Rolag carding combs. And then I have the little dog brushes that show how to do it less expensively. And my little thing of water for when I'm processing fiber. And then my little lotion for my wrists. And that's all that's in this one. And this one is actually used really regularly. And then, oh, joy of all joys, I found an empty one. Okay, so this is good. I could put finished wool in this, but sometimes I really like to keep it out and displayed. So, I'm not actually sure what to do with this one. I'll have to think about that. But that's a godsend, because I have a whole bunch of stuff that I'm trying really hard to get organized, and having an extra makes a big difference. What I can put on display, I do put on display. For instance, I have the wool, the yarn that I just finished is right there. And then down below, the little loom I have is out on display. And then the drop spindles that I never use are on display. I never use them because I prefer Turkish spindle. Because with a Turkish spindle, you don't have to use a lazy key in order to unwind it, or you can just take it apart and take the ball off. And then the last one, I'm trying to remember what's in the last one. Oh, now I remember. Oh, it's heavy. Okay, so the last one is all of my double fold bias tape, which I love double fold bias tape. So that is there. It's quite heavy, and I think, yes, and then I have my buttons. I don't get into my buttons very often, so I guess that's why they're on the bottom. Let's see if I can show them to you. Maybe I'll just have to show it to you and pull it out. Underneath all of that, these are all of my buttons. That's all of them. And I have them sorted into colors, and if I have quite a few of them, I also have them sorted into sizes. So pink, yellow, orange, red, all those kind of things. So this is like a little tackle box or a bead box, and that's what I have it in. And I have it in here with the double fold bias tape, which I just made a mess out of. But you can see I feel a little better now after having shown you all this, because I don't have that much. Those are pretty small boxes, but think of this. In a tiny house, those spaces could be used for something else. So if I'm not using them... All right, so I'm finding that I also have quite a stash of wool, and that I'm not spinning as much because I'm overwhelmed by how much wool I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up a whole bunch of bats to take to Santa Rosa with me, and to also put on the Etsy store. And I want to really hone down on what it is I want to make as my next project, instead of just accumulating stuff. The purpose of minimalism is to find the things that you love and to do them, not to hold on to all this other stuff that you might like to do someday. Do it in the now. So what I have found is that the more furniture I have in my living room, the more stuff I have in my living room, the less I want to spend. I just feel like it seems to be emotional clutter. And so the cleaner I get my house, the less stuff we have in here, the more likely I am to pull it out and spin. Instead of having two spinning wheels that I look at both of them and then I never use either one of them, I will show you where I keep that one. This one is here just ready to be used. And this is my other spinning wheel. This is my Polywog. And it's not hard to get down. It's easy to get down, but having two wheels doesn't make any sense. At least to me, it doesn't make any sense. Especially not in a small space, but this is where it is. So you can see that just because I'm in a tiny house doesn't mean I'm not a hoarder. Two spinning wheels. A little teeny one and a really big amazing one. This one is amazing at what it does. That one's amazing at what it does. But do I really need both of them? No, I really don't. But on top of that, I also have my Lazy Kate that I invented, and I am going to make a video showing you how to do this, because a lot of times if you have a built-in Lazy Kate to hold your bobbins, especially if you're a beginning spinner, it's very difficult to apply that close to the bobbin because these little teeth will catch it. So what this is for if you have drop spindles, or if you have supported spindles, or if you have something like the Polywog where it's really kind of difficult to apply from that space. So I will try and explain to you how to make these. They're very simple. It costs me $10 to make this, and it works like a dream. But I don't need it, so what am I going to do with it? I really don't know what to do with it. I feel like it's important to be able to show people how to do things inexpensively, but I don't think I should be doing it at the expense of my being able to function in a day. So the moral of the story is, yes, you can craft in a tiny house. Yes, you can craft in an off-grid house, but be mindful. Don't hoard. I struggle with hoarding. Whatever you feel like you are hoarding, you're really not using it, try to find a way to sell it. That's my not very humble opinion. My opinion is almost never humble. So thank you, Kaya, for bringing things in, and hope you enjoyed this video.
Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Yes, and if you want more stuff to hoard, you can always go over to our Etsy store. That would be a great idea, because I'm making up all this fiber into more bats.
Yeah, and I have pictures for sale.
That is true. She does. So, we'll talk to you later.